So welcome to each and every one of you who joined us today. I'm super excited about this 30-day cleanse challenge. I know some of you, I've been talking to you on a one-on-one, and we've been kind of going back and forth through text, and we're all super excited and pumped about the results that we're going to get through this challenge. So today we're going to be covering like a few things. We're going to be covering, what to expect, just again, how to take the product, kind of certain things that we should be thinking about doing for our nutrition, but aren't absolutely like necessary. Again, we want this to be a very gentle process. And while sometimes that's not always something in our control, what we can control is what we put into our body, right? And we can control our experience through that. So we want to make sure that we do take the products effectively and aren't like kind of going all out with nutrition, because we don't want it to be something too restrictive for us, and we don't want too many changes all at once, right? Take it one step at a time. I think that's always the best way to build a habit and build something into your lifestyle, right? The idea here is that we're trying to build a healthy, diverse microbiome, and so we want to ease into it. All right. So, let me actually switch my presentation over. Sorry guys, give me a second. There we go. Okay, so it's day one. Thank you for joining us, and we're gonna get started, actually gonna go right into it. So I'm actually gonna invite Charlene to give us a rundown of how to take everything. Again, she's gonna kind of go over what the products are and how to take them, but I'm gonna kind of stop sharing my screen so that way she can hop on and walk us through this process.
Thanks, Karen. Can everybody hear me? Sorry, I just want to make sure. Yes, okay, good.
And if everyone could just mute themselves, just so we don't get any feedback.
Perfect. So super excited to get this started. Everybody should have gotten their kit. So in there we have three things. This is Paraway Plus, and what that does is it goes in to immobilize the bad bacteria and the parasites that are living within the gut. And then we have Life Fiber, and that is to go in there, and we have little villi living, there's little villi along the intestinal tract, and it goes in there to gently scrub and get the parasites, unwanted waste, and bad bacteria that are hiding within there out. And then you may have opted for the tea or the capsules. For me, I have the tea. I have that every other night or every third night. So listen to your body, and that is to go in there and basically gently flush all the unwanted waste out, right? So I do this on an empty stomach because it is the gut's first food. So I put one scoop of the Life Fiber in there. And today is day one, so we are taking 2 capsules of Paraway Plus. And it's fiber, so you got to mix it up like really, really well. It's not going to dissolve well, but just mix it as best as you can. Sorry.
Or shake it.
Shake it, yes. Also, if you have like a little hand blender, that's optimal. And just kick it back. And that's it. Super easy, super simple. And we're gonna do that for another 29 more days. At day 11, day 10, we're gonna do a check-in, but at day 11, we're gonna kick it up to 5 of these per day, okay? I'm gonna kick it back to Karen. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thanks, Char. So one of the key things to remember is the reason why we're increasing those 5 caps, right? We initially start with 2 caps a day, but we want to kick it up to 5 caps a day. And the reason for that is because we want to really push those bad bacteria out. The first 10 days, we're just stunning those bad bacteria. We're kind of immobilizing them, creating a hostile environment for them. And then the last 20 days, we're trying to really get them to get out of there, right? We're really trying to hammer and give them some rain so that they can't really survive, pretty much. And so, again, we already kind of know how this works. Paraway Plus is there to mobilize, live fiber is there to scrub and replenish, and then you want to use the aloe vera or the nature's tea as needed. Now, aloe vera you can use every day. It's very gentle enough that you can use every day. However, if you're going to be using the nature's tea, read the instructions on the box. It does say use it every 2 to 3 days as needed, or you can use it every day if you still feel like a little bit more backed up than normal. And that's totally normal to feel that. So let's kind of go over this 30-day tracker. I hope everyone printed this out. Yeah, we did? Thumbs up. Give me a second here. Boom, boom. Okay, so here's how we're gonna track our progress so far. So today is day 1. We took our 2 Paraway Plus, we took our live fiber, and now you may skip the nature's tea or the aloe vera tonight, and that's okay. But what's super, super important is that you make sure you're getting enough water. 8 to 10 glasses of water or 2 liters of water approximately. We want to make sure that because we're increasing our fiber intake, we're also, that pulls water, and so we want to make sure that we're able to flush things through and make it easier for ourselves to adjust to the added fiber intake. So again, consistency of the Paraway and the live fiber is more important than you taking the nature's tea or the aloe vera. So let's talk about measurements. Measurements is super, super important. I think that, I don't think we should focus so much on the weight loss that we're going to experience from this, but it can occur. So if you've been someone who's been extra bloated or dealing with a lot of bloating issues, you're going to start to notice that bloating is going to start to subside. In the first couple of days, it may be more than normal, and that's okay. You need to give your body time to adjust, but you may notice certain things, like the first week, you may notice that you feel less hungry, you're less irritable, you're not moody as much, you're not craving certain foods. Just make notes of those on the side. And there's only 2 real measurements that you really want to be focusing on, I think, over the next couple of weeks. Your weight. Now you can also measure in pounds. You don't have to measure in kilograms. That's not super important or tedious. Make it easy for you. And your waistline. When you're measuring your waistline, make sure that you're measuring around your belly button. Okay, so stand up. Okay, around your belly button. Usually it's the widest part of your waist. And don't wear leggings. That's very important. So just take note on some of the positive changes that you see each week, and we can see those results towards the end of the 30 days. So this is what we're doing to our bodies. I use this analogy when I described the cleanse initially to a few of you. We basically have a lawn inside of us that has been abused. It's been, there's weeds growing, there's bad leaves, dirty leaves, old leaves. It just needs to get cleared away. And so the cleanse is a great way for us to get a fresh start, plant those seeds for that new grass to grow, that new healthy bacteria to grow. And so now we're left with beautiful, luscious grass or beautiful, luscious diversity of bacteria. So as we know from Dr. Lucas's presentation on Monday, the microbiome is a collection of bacteria that reside in our gut. Now there's 2 types of microbiomes. Like he said, we have microbiome that lives on the surface of our skin, but we also have the microbiome that lives inside of us. And not only does that microbiome support healthy digestion, but it nearly all other aspects of our life as well. And I think this diagram really shows a picture of what we're dealing with here. Our bodies are mostly bacteria. We are outnumbered here, people. My bacteria salutes your bacteria. Like, that's how we are communicating now, I feel. And so we need to really pay attention on how we can improve the health and monitor some of the negative aspects that are affecting our microbiome and what we can start to do to prevent those from, wreaking havoc, so that we don't feel like we have to reset our bodies all the time. So a couple really powerful studies on the microbiome in relation to metabolism. There was this really huge research study that was conducted out of Harvard where they took 100 identical twins, and these identical twins happened to be the sort where, one of them was a little bit more overweight than the other person. And so what they did was they actually wanted to determine what the power of the microbiome was and whether or not it played a role in metabolism. So what they did was they took the poop from the overweight twin and they switched that with the lean twin, and then vice versa, right? So they switched the healthy fecal matter into the obese fecal matter. And so they found that over time, regardless of diet, regardless of what they put in their diets, that the overweight or obese individual started to lose weight rapidly, whereas the lean individual started to gain weight rapidly. So what that means is that there are certain bacteria that determine whether or not we burn fat or whether or not we're gaining, putting on more weight or gaining fat. And so the same results were even replicated in mice, which are very identical to humans and have been used quite, widely for human studies. And so this is actually a clip from Dr. Grant's presentation that I thought was very powerful and a key takeaway, that a healthy microbiome is a diverse microbiome. It's a diverse community of different players. We have police officers, we have firefighters, we have, doctors, we have nurses, we have, accountants, we have different specialized bacteria that do special things, right? And so we need to make sure that we have a diverse spectrum of those bacteria so that they're able to play on to their functions. And one of the other key takeaways that I thought was very powerful was that the gut microbiome of people in developed nations, so our part of the world, the US and Canada, are less diverse than in developing nations. And that has to do with the variety of the foods, right? So we, in this side of the world, eat way more processed food. We do. We snack more often, and we're not feeding our microbiome to the level that it should be, right? Versus in developing nations, they may not have access to certain types of processed foods, so they're more reliant on their natural foods and their cultural foods. And the diversity of our microbiome is actually determined by our lifestyle. It's determined by our habits. And so, for example, whether or not, we were breastfed or formula fed, or eating solid foods, that's going to determine the variety of bacteria that live in our systems. Actually, an unborn baby doesn't have any microbiome. So our microbiome is completely determined by what we put in. And so even, for example, I think one of the powerful things to show here is that, what happens to your microbiome with antibiotic treatment or versus not being, malnourished or being now malnourished and versus a healthy individual. And the difference between someone who is healthy and someone who is overweight or obese. And then again, someone who's living over 100 years or someone who lives only maybe to the age of 65. There's different varieties of bacteria that have different roles and show that they can affect longevity and the health of our lives. And so I kind of want to focus on antibiotic treatment because I think that it's kind of underplayed as to the effects and the impact that this is having on our health. Antibiotics are in everything, in our non-organic meats, in our milks, in our eggs, in our water even, and our drinking water has antibiotics, and it affects our microbiome. It kills off that diversity over time. And, even something that's becoming more popular now and used like hand sanitizers, because we do want to protect ourselves against the COVID virus, we are using that more often. So we have to be careful and be mindful that, hey, you know what? We may need to kind of switch over to using more soap and water because we still do want to protect our microbiome and our microbiome diversity. And it's actually really, this statistic really alarmed me. You know, on average, Americans take about 30 courses of antibiotics before the age of 40. That's insane. And if you look at the trends of obesity and the amount of antibiotic prescriptions, you could see that they overlap, right? The concentration of, you know, people who have or are dealing with weight issues is similar to the concentration of antibiotic prescriptions that are giving out in those areas. So the more antibiotics you use, the more chances of you losing those beneficial bacteria to help you with your metabolism is high. And so like we mentioned, our guts control and deal with every aspect of our lifestyles. How we digest our food, and even food sensitivities is linked to, you know, our mood, our concentration, what we do, how we act, our energy, our weight. It affects everything. And one of the most powerful statistics, I actually found this when I was doing some research on the microbiome, was that, you know, almost twice as many women than men suffer from digestive issues on a weekly basis. So women, we deal with a lot. You know, we deal with hormones at the time of the month, we deal with cramps, but we also deal with a lot more digestive issues. And I think that has to do a lot with our diet and our lifestyle. And, you know, 62% of people have some form of digestive issue or complaint. And actually, one of the really cool statistics was that 95% of serotonin, which is that feel-good influencing hormone, it actually is produced by our small intestine. So our mood is determined by how we feel in our stomachs. I think that's super insane. And 70% of our immune system, like Dr. Grant mentioned, is influenced by our microbiome. And so here are some of the factors. There's some factors that, you know, affect our rate of disease, our health, and our well-being. And, you know, our environmental microbiota and our animal microbiota is not something we can control over, right? Whether or not we have pets and how they're influenced on our microbiome, we can't control those things, but they do influence diseases, health, and well-being to our microbiome. But there are certain things that we may not always be in control of, and that is, you know, antibiotics that are found in our foods, you know, these pollutants and chemicals that are found in our foods, especially non-organic foods like fertilizers and pesticides. But there are things that we can do, right? We can focus on what we put into our body, we can eat more fermented foods, and we can take probiotics. So what are some foods that we can start to take that will help flourish and build our good bacteria? Bad bacteria, unfortunately, is influenced by sugar. So the more sugar we consume, the more bad bacteria we're going to have in our systems. And so we want to make sure that we try to limit our sugar intake, right? Focus on trying to remove certain foods that are high in sugar. And good bacteria is actually influenced by protein intake and fiber. And fiber, as Dr. Grant taught us, is a prebiotic. It's helping to feed that good bacteria and creating that environment for good bacteria to grow. So I'm actually going to send you this list, so don't worry about having to write all these down. It's impossible. But there's actually quite a few names for sugar. And I think a lot of these food companies are getting really creative with their ways of describing sugar now. You know, coconut cane sugar and organic sugar. At the end of the day, sugar is sugar. It still has the same effect in our body. We should be mindful and try to aim for less than 25 grams of sugar a day if we can. Again, this is something we want to gradually start to implement, right? We don't want to make these changes all at once. We want to start to gradually implement these things. Let's talk about fiber. So the government of Canada actually recommends for us to have 38 grams of fiber per day, okay? It is very hard to get 38 grams of fiber a day consistently without needing to supplement, without compromising calorie intake and eating a variety of foods. I am one to say that my diet is not perfect, and it's very difficult to keep a consistently perfect diet. So, and you can even see that the average healthy person maybe gets about 8 to 15 grams of fiber per day. So with live fiber, you're actually getting about 6 grams of fiber per scoop. So you're actually helping yourself get towards that daily intake of fiber. And even, long term, this might be something that you want to continue to stick on, because again, it has that added fiber benefit, plus it's always going to continually work to keep your microbiome healthy. All right, guys, so if no one has any more questions, I want to thank you so much for your patience and appreciate you for joining us today. I'm super excited about May 4th. I will be sending out an email in regards to that with the link and a copy of this recording as well. So check your inboxes in the coming week or so. And I look forward to getting in touch with each of you and following up with you during this process. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you guys next time.